Hi everyone, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. I got a movie for you today. A forgotten classic? I don't know, maybe not a classic, but you know what? A real good movie. I really enjoyed it. It's certainly something I'd never heard of before. The movie is called Seven Sinners, starring Edmund Lowe and Constance Cummings. Now this is a movie that showed up on YouTube. I put it away on a playlist to watch later. Didn't really know what it was going to be from the title and from the fact that it was, produced in 1936. I thought, well, maybe this is going to be one of those sort of scandal pictures, a kind of a drama, Seven Sinners, And no, it's nothing like that. Nothing like that at all. Cast also includes Tommy Bordell, Henry Oscar, Felix Aylmer, Joyce Kennedy. This is a picture made by Gainsborough Pictures in England. It was exported to the United States under the name Doomed Cargo. I think Seven Sinners is a better name. Maybe that had trouble getting through the studio system in the U.S. Who knows? But what you have in this movie is... it's a mystery. It's somewhat lighthearted, although the crimes involved are not lighthearted. It is very reminiscent to me of the Thin Man movies, in as much as you have a duo, a man and a woman, solving a crime, and there's witty repartee between the two of them. A little bit of the 39 Steps. There's maybe a little bit of Hitchcock in this one. It was directed by Albert de Corville. But a solid little picture. So let's get down to the plot. And of course, I'm going to do my best not to spoil it for you. We start off at the Carnival in Nice. How nice. And we soon meet this fella. No, this is not a horror movie. That is just a mask for Carnival. And this fella, who we won't know a whole lot about, comes across this fella, who we're going to get to know very well. This is Ed Harwood, a New York private detective, played by Edmund Lowe, who has been brought over to France. He came over to France, I think, on vacation, but he's been hired by the Worldwide Insurance Company to investigate a robbery in Scotland. And so he's scheduled to head up to Scotland after Carnival. And here we can see that he's drunk and he's fallen asleep, and he actually has, I think, his cape caught in this door. And so he and the man in the mask meet, and the man in the mask helps get him unstuck. They have a drink together, separate, and Ed Harwood comes back upstairs and discovers the man in the mask slumped over and dead. So there's been a murder. So he heads downstairs to fetch the police or the detective or whoever, and he runs into Carol Fenton, played by Constance Cummings, who has been sent over by the Worldwide Insurance Company to take him north to Scotland. And he tells her what's happened, and he tells the hotel what's happened. And they all go upstairs and discover there's no body. Now, this would be the setup for a lot of mystery movies back in the day, the missing body. It's a pretty well-established trope. Whereas the whole movie would take place in the hotel and yada, yada, yada. Not what they do here. This is all still the setup. So everybody thinks that Harwood is, he's drunk. He's just imagined it. It didn't happen. The guy wasn't really dead. And so Fenton convinces him that he needs to get his butt on the train to go north up to Paris so they can then, head to England and Scotland to get their job done. So on the train, it's discovered that he does not have a berth. He doesn't have a room. And Carol lets him know that no, he will not be staying in her room. Knocks him out the door, locks it. You already at this point see the chemistry between these two. It's a shame that this never got a follow up. I wouldn't put Lowe and Cummings quite on the level of William Powell and Myrna Loy in the Thin Man movies. Those are absolute top tier for, you know, a couples picture, I guess you could call it. But they're really good, and they do have a great on-screen rapport, and that's what really got me. That's what really attracted me to the movie. Although it was a good opening, it was a good beginning, great sets, great costumes, and Lowe is charismatic. He has that sort of just off the cuff way of talking, you know, that got me in. But once those two teamed up, you could see that it was going to be a much better movie than I had expected. So he has to, you know, play catch as catch can, and he kind of finds a little bench to sleep on the train. And then all of a sudden, he dreams about what happened. Nice little special effect with the dream. Simple, but it works. And he's, you know, dreaming about seeing the body and all this other stuff. It's all going through his head, and suddenly all hell breaks loose as the train crashes. And this was another nice effect. This is obviously not a big special effects movie, but it really did work. And so here's where the plot thickens. Because as he's waking up on the remains of this train, there's fire, there's smoke, and everything else, he sees the body of the dead man. And on this train. How did it get on the train? Who knows? But he finds an address in Paris on the man. And but before he can drag the body out, he's overcome by fire and he has to get out of there. And he comes to in a nunnery that's being used as an infirmary for the victims of this train crash. And he runs back into Carol Fenton. And he also runs into Paul Torbay, this assistant prefect of police, and kind of tells him his theory that there's something big going on here. And Torbay does confirm that the train derailing was not an accident, but he doesn't believe that it's some grand conspiracy necessarily. And so Harwood makes a $5,000 bet that he will get to the bottom of this and find the person responsible with Torbay. And think about it, that's a $5,000 bet in 1936. I haven't done the math, but that's a big bet. So they shake on it, and he and Carol Fenton head to Paris to chase down the clues. The robbery investigation in Scotland being forgotten. This is what he's into. And so it's great. He's the detective. She's sort of the assistant. You know, she's not maybe a detective in and of herself, but she's smart and she's witty. And there's a lot of verbal, you know, pairing between the two. There's clearly an attraction, but you know, they're not giving into it right away. The humor is adult for 1936. I mean, I wouldn't call it. There's certainly dirtier movies that were made back in the 30s. It's not quite there, but so they start tracking down clues from one place to another. There's a great scene with maybe the biggest chair fight that has ever been committed to film, where he and some other guys are literally throwing chairs at each other across a room, which is a fun little scene. And, you know, the stakes for this crime are pretty high because we're talking about a criminal who has caused a train derailing, and it's not the only one. This comes up a couple times in the film. So there's actually a fairly big body count, despite the fact that the interactions between, you know, Harwood and Fenton are fairly light. But, you know, they're tracking down something very serious. And it is sort of, it's a crime of its period. We're 1936, so Europe is in the balance right here. Things are starting to go sideways really fast in Europe. And that, you know, has a little something to do with it. It's that, but it's still sort of in that interwar period between World War I and World War II, which makes it somewhat interesting. Ultimately, it comes back down to a train where Harwood finally gets that last clue to let him know what's going on. And I'm not going to spoil this for... No, in fact, I'm not going to spoil it at all. Because something happens that may end Harwood's investigation the wrong way. He figures it out. But do the authorities ever find out? Okay, yeah, there's kind of a happy ending at the end. But really, I was really impressed with this film. You know, I make it a practice to seek out movies that I've never seen before, that are sort of forgotten, that have sort of been lost in the shuffle. And a lot of times you watch them and you come away going, I can kind of see why it sort of got lost in the shuffle. It's not that great a film. Not terrible, but not great. But this one I really liked. I was really impressed with this. In fact, I watched this thing about 3 months ago, and I'm only finally now getting to do the video because I'm like, look, I'm not going to get a lot of views on this video. That's fine. But I want to just throw this out here because Seven Sinners, and especially the rapport between Lowe and Cummings, should be watched. You know, this is the only movie they did together. She ended up doing a lot of stage work in London. Harwood, if memory serves, I want to say he died fairly young. He didn't get to do a lot of other films. It's a real tragedy. This wasn't a bigger film at the time and didn't lead to, you know, sequels sort of like the Thin Man series did. They had a wonderful rapport. I think maybe my favorite little quick one-liner in the movie, at one point the two of them have to visit this, like a parish clerk in England to find some information. And he assumes they're a married couple, which Harwood goes with because that's a good way to get information out of this guy. And at that point, Fenton is sort of still, you know, she likes the guy, but she's semi-annoyed by the guy as well. And so she's kind of in a bad mood. And the clerk says something, asks to that effect, like, you know, was there something wrong? And he, the one-liner is, yeah, she got a good night's sleep last night, and she's still upset about it. All right, little innuendo there, but it's like that's a great little one-liner. That was maybe my favorite one from the show. But there's a lot of that kind of stuff. He's fast, delivers the lines well, delivers them quick, and they're funny. They're enjoyable. So Seven Sinners, 1936. It's not a really long movie. You know, you could. I think it's about like maybe an hour and a half, maybe a little shorter than that. Go check it out. I really think it's worth your time. And it's only sad that these two didn't get to do more together because they're a really good screen couple, a forgotten screen couple. Well, that'll do it for Dad's Den of Pop Culture today. If you enjoyed the video, please like, please subscribe, and please share with your friends, especially if there's some other classic movie buffs who like to discover old movies that they've never seen before, because this is a goodie. In the meantime, God bless you. Please be kind to one another, and try to have some fun out there in this great big crazy world of ours. I'll see you again in Dad's Den.